Hi guys, and we've now cleaned out the van. It's looking fairly clean now. So other than the mud I've just trod in, so it's now time to start stripping back some of this rust and the little spots that we've got, and just going to touch them up with paint. So the paint we used is white Hammerite metal paint. It says direct to rust on it. Not that we have much except for the corner, which I stripped out with a wire brush. You won't see any of this flooring, it's all going to be under the floorboards. So the mismatches don't really matter. So now I've started on that worst offender down there, which was terrible. I'm going to go through and touch up all the rest of it.
We're quite lucky that we don't have many rust spots, but we must touch up any raw metal, so screw holes that are punctured.
So we're just taking the bar off the side of the vehicle for the guideline for the side door, because we noticed some rust on the back of it, so we're going to give it a little clean up.
So a little rust here. A little rust here, so we're just trying to take it out to see if we can treat it.
Yeah, it seems for what we need, taking the door out is quite hard, so we're just doing it the cheeky way of half taking it out. I need to repair this little corner here.
And then rust here as well.
As you can probably hear, it's absolutely bucketing down with rain at the moment, and it's forecast to do this for the entire week. Crossed our luck. Today we're going to do the sound deadening on the van. The reason why we chose this one was we found it to be the cheapest on Amazon. The other product we have is some insulation stroke sound deadening foam. I don't think this is going to be as insulating as the insulation block we're going to put up, but this, along with the radiator heat refractor tape, should hopefully suffice on a couple of the areas. I'll put a link in for the Dodo mat and the sound deadening products we use, but they're very common to find. That's the difference.
You use about 40 to 60% of the area covered with sound deadening, but with the size of our van, unfortunately it ended up being quite expensive, because it's amazing how much of the product you go through.
Howdy. Now that we've put sound deadening on, you cannot hear me. So I'm inside the van. That's exactly how it works, isn't it? So now we put the sound deadening on. We've run out of sound deadening for the floor. We'll put a little bit more on the floor, and we've applied most of it to
slightly
the
more.
walls. The bits of blue tape mark out where everything's going to go, so we didn't waste sound deadening on those areas.
We completed the installation after installing the main cables that run underneath.
Now what we're doing is we're just going through each of these, seeing where it's moving. We're just going to put some glue behind it to make sure it's properly fastened. Yeah, it's just an attempt to stop it rattling so much.
In places like the wheel arches, we used a lot more sound deadening just to make sure that there's no sound coming up from the wheels. Sound deadening was also applied to the bottom of the van in small strips, and this is going to go underneath the flooring that we'll put down. So now the van is pretty much fully sound deadening, if that is the right word. Sound deadened.
Foam Kingspan foam board at 25mm, so we've got 50mm of insulation here. It seems that we could go to the Antarctica with this type of insulation, and we're just putting 2 layers of insulation on here because then when we put plywood on there it's going to go flush up to the insulation, which means we've got 50mm of insulation on here, which is quite a lot of insulation. If you want to cut that bit, you can just pour it, break it, and then chop the back. Rather than a sharp knife, it's best to use a serrated knife. We're using some cheapy steak knives to cut this. They go through it like a little saw.
Yeah.
Sharp knives just blunt on this stuff so quickly. So we use one of our best carving knives, which is now our worst carving knife.
So the order that we applied was the sound deadening, followed by the insulation foam rolls on certain areas, and then we used the sound deadening block 25mm Kingspan board, and then after that we put a layer of tin foil over the top of that to create a vapor barrier. In between any gaps we used wool where we could, and any hard to get to places also had wool in them. In my tinfoil hat car, I feel like I'm ready for the Trump tour.
We've sealed it all with the silver line tape. One tip for you, which I should say, is we were buying our silver line tape from Amazon, which was probably the most expensive. You think it would be the cheapest, and then we found Toolstation was a bit cheaper, and then we went to Screwfix, and this stuff is super cheap compared to everywhere else.
And then
The dial foil tape is really high quality, and the ones that are open at the moment, we're going to use the squirty gun and shoot some foam in there. So the reason why we filled all these holes is because we're carpeting the walls, and if we don't fill the holes we'll get dust coming back through from the back of them, and it will mark the carpet on the wall where the holes are. So that's why we fill every hole here.
And then finally, after all the installation, we put the original plywood back on because we were just going to carpet over, but unfortunately we didn't think of putting the battens into the top to support any overhead cupboards, so they did come off slightly later, and then we battened in the top of the van. Please don't forget to like and subscribe because we really appreciate it.